Well, here we are again, another Friday. It's amazing how often Friday comes along, and yet how quickly Monday arrives. I'm sure most of you will agree with that. This week, based on a trip I took last week out walking open houses and new homes, I wanted to talk about the lack of preparation in too many instances with people who are holding, agents who are holding open house. It's been my experience that too often you're greeted with, here's a brochure, as I was last weekend, and there doesn't seem to be a great deal of preparation. When we started out talking, we talked about the three things that are critical in having a good open house. One is how well you fulfill the promise you made to the owner when you talked about holding an open house. The second thing was preparation. The third thing, consistency. Today I want to spend some time on preparation. The definition of preparation is things that are done to make something happen. And I guess what I decided I would do today is I would pose some questions based on my experience and my knowledge of the industry over the years. And the reason I'm doing that is I was told a long time ago, and I found it to be pretty accurate, is that if you have the right question, you have half the answer. And so some of the things that I want to talk about, for example, here's a question. What are the things you do to prepare for an open house? Are you consistent? Do you do the same thing each and every time in terms of your preparation? It's a very difficult challenge when you're there for 4 and 5 hours and maybe you don't get many people through. And that can cause you to have a little bit of lackadaisical activity, or get caught by surprise with someone coming in and you happen to be watching the television or something. You say, whoa, wait a minute, Bill, that's not fair. I'm not saying that it's fair, but it's not unfair either. I can tell you, if you went out in your neighborhood and you walked every open house, you'd find some of the conditions that I'm talking about. So my question to you is, do you have a checklist? Are you new in the industry? Do you know what to do in preparing for an open house? What are the steps that you need to take? If you don't, get with one of the senior people in your office and have them help you. But there are certain things you need to do if you want to optimize your ability to be successful. And for me, one of them is asking yourself, what outcome do I expect? I'm going to hold an open house this weekend. What do I expect? I have a nice saying that I like. I have a bunch of them that I like. But people who expect more, even though they get less than they expected, get more than those that don't expect anything in the first place. So this expectation, what is the outcome that you want? You're the expert. What is it that you want to have accomplished? Do you want to pick up some leads for maybe not this property, but other properties? Do you hope to sell this thing? What are you doing to prepare yourself to be organized in a way that you've got yourself put together relative to what is the script? What is the greeting? Have you thought through what you're going to say when people come through the front door? Have you thought through the questions that you want answered and when you want them answered? How thorough are you in terms of preparing yourself with scripts and dialogues, and maybe even role-playing a little bit with someone at the office in terms of how you're going to react to people that come in through the house? Now, if you've been in the business a lot of years, you say, you know, Bill, I know what to do. Well, sometimes we call that shooting from the hip. Even though you've been in the business for a long time, it doesn't hurt to role play and get ready. Why is it that people stretch and people in sports, do all the things that they do before they go out and get in the game. Well, it's not any different for us. We need to get our game face on the minute the first person comes through. And we need to be ready to answer any question they have. Do you talk about the wow factors of the house? Do you think, as you go through that house, do you think of how you convert features into benefits? How you build value in the minds of these people? Here's something I want you to realize. Many people that come through aren't in the market. They might be neighbors. They may be coming there to size you up to see how professional you are because they're thinking about listing their house. So whether they're a neighbor or a prospect from another area, it's important that you have thought through the different things that you need to talk about to create the value for this house. The one thing you need to ask yourself is, what do I want to know about each prospect? It's amazing how many times a prospect will go out of a model home or an open house and know more about the salesperson than the salesperson knows about them. So you need to take control. You need to ask questions. Questions are the key to getting the information that you need to determine whether it's a prospect or a suspect. But I want to warn you, at an open house, even a suspect can be either a future client or know somebody that is thinking about moving into the area. How well have you prepared the neighborhood for the fact that you're going to be holding an open house? Will you be generating lots of traffic? Do you need to let them know that you're having an open house and there may be traffic? If there's a problem, please come down and talk to me right away. I mean, there are all kinds of considerations. But if you've been around a while, you probably have a mental checklist, even if you don't have a list. But even a pilot who's flown for 20 years has a list that he walks that airplane and he checks that list against the condition of the airplane before he exposes himself and, even more importantly, his passengers to flight in that aircraft. When you go into somebody's house and you're representing them with probably the most expensive, highest price transaction they're going to have in their life, they have a right to expect you to be prepared and not just say, here's a brochure. If you have any questions, let me know. Now, there's about 3 or 4 questions that are things that I think you should think about when you do this. First of all, after the greeting, what's the first question you want to ask? I'm not going to tell you what question to ask. I had my questions. Others have their questions. I believe in a planned presentation. I don't believe in a canned presentation. The difference is a canned presentation is one I prepare and hand you and you try to memorize it. A planned presentation is one where you discuss the features and benefits and the questions you want to ask, and you generate that in your words, because that's the only way you're going to be natural in dealing with a prospect. But it's important for you to have some grasp of what you want to say to these people. What is the wow factor of this house? What is the area that has, you think, the greatest impact, that will have the greatest appeal? What kind of prospect do you think would live in this house? Now, if you had a prospect with 3 bedrooms upstairs and a master bedroom down, you might not expect somebody with infants to buy this house. Doesn't mean they won't. You want to go through and qualify them. But there are a variety of things that happen. So, number one, think through your greeting, but even equally important, think through what the first question is you want to ask. Number 2, be sure you can articulate the benefits of this house that gives it the value that makes it worth the price that they're asking for it. And number 3, be sure that you have gone through that checklist and you've prepared the house, you've prepared the neighborhood, and you've prepared yourself for this opportunity. If you go out there and you don't have an outcome in mind, you're not going to have the same enthusiasm and generate the same emotion with the people that come through if you don't have a plan. So for me, it's important, if you're a salesperson, to be prepared. And prepared means things that are done to make something ready. The question is, how ready are you for that open house this weekend? Those are my thoughts, and I'm sticking with them. Have a great weekend.